That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. My apologies for just being really far behind on these. Just had something come up 2 weeks ago, and then I was sick the next week, and I just couldn't get a show together. But here we are back, and hopefully we'll have some good turnout tonight or something. Soul Invictus in the chat. Hi, Soul Invictus. Hopefully some other people show up and we'll talk. But until then, let's go over what we'll be discussing tonight. So we're going to start off with Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 12, followed by Superman number 15, Black Hammer Age of Doom number 12, Batman City of Bane number 79, or just Batman number 79, City of Bane part whatever, Zorro Sacrilege number 3, and Zorro Rise of the Old Gods number 1. It's an interesting time to be a Zorro fan. Just drowning in content. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and start off and talk about Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 12. So this is one of those cases where I've really liked this book. And it seems that it's been pretty I don't know how to put it, pretty short story based as opposed to arc based, which is really what I prefer in a comic like this. But it's apparently been doing something kind of behind the scenes since basically the start of the series that I just haven't picked up on. And that's that they're doing a lot to set up this underground under York thing as kind of a group with a grudge against Spider-Man for what he's done. And there have been multiple points in the series, and I guess I just wasn't connecting the dots, wherein Spider-Man's been like the target of an attack, and they've created these situations in which to attack him. And so we get one of those here. And honestly, I thought it was reasonably clever. Like the thing I'm mostly reading this book for is the character work, less so the plot. But I thought this plot was reasonably clever. So Spider-Man's hanging out on a bridge and he sees that there's a boat on fire. He's like, okay, well that's odd. But he figures out how to get over there. He attaches to a helicopter to get over. And he starts to work on rescuing the people on the boat and realizes there's someone up in the crow's nest. And he starts to go up there, but then his spider sense starts going off. And he's like, why? Well, yeah, I know I'm surrounded by danger. I'm on a flaming boat. Thanks, spider sense. But then when he gets there, it was a guy with a gun planning to attack him. And so he shot off the boat. And I just thought that was like a reasonably clever little villain plot, because Spider-Man's such like a finicky, jumpy kind of guy, right? Like he bounces around, he's always doing backflips, and he's just like really hard to get a hold of and beat up. It's not that he is super strong, but he's not like overly super strong that the right person couldn't do the job. It's just that he's so damn wiry and so hard to catch that he's a really hard person to fight on those terms. And so the idea of like getting him completely out of his element because he's on water, what's he gonna web to? Is really clever. Putting him around dangers so you're nullifying his ability to perceive danger is really clever. I don't know, I really liked that. I thought that was a pretty cool move. So anyway, because there's like news footage of him getting shot from the boat, people think he's dead. And he ends up calling his police detective friend and kind of going a little under the radar, not wanting to let people know that Spider-Man survived. But then he he goes to visit his police detective friend, and he comes in a hat and trench coat, which I thought was pretty adorable. There's a running gag throughout this issue about Peter Parker not knowing the meaning of the word irony, and I do really, really enjoy Taylor's voice for Spider-Man here. He's so good at writing just the character of Peter Parker. Right, we checked the sketch artist portrait against. He's a really good artist. Seriously, he's wasted here. That gave me quite a good laugh. You know, I couldn't help but kind of get a kick out of that. So anyway, and then there's another moment where like Spider-Man's tracked down the guy that tried to kill him, and he's like asked for a favor from this dude's hired limousine driver, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna just drive him around and get him out of danger and yada yada. And he's like, all right, can I wear the hat? And I just love the dialogue. Cat, I don't suppose you want to wear the hat. I really do. And he just puts on the hat. That's cute. That's fun. I really did get a kick out of that. So anyways, the guy that tried to kill him, he's driving around, and eventually, you know, it leads to a confrontation. I really love the way Spider-Man interrogates someone. I'm going to bite you now. What? You don't do that. I do. But it's a secret, because I've eaten everyone who knows about it. What? I'm giving you one chance. I'm giving you a choice. You can be a light snack followed by a husk, or... And it's just like, oh my god, that is such a good way for Spider-Man to interrogate people. Because I always like the idea that Spider-Man's going to, like, a little under the radar, a little unknown. So, like, people know about him, but they don't know everything about him. Because he's not, like, a big public figure. And so just the idea that, yeah, he's Spider-Man, he's got spider powers. And that's just a little creepy. So kind of playing on that I thought was pretty fun. In any case, he gets information out of this guy that he's the Under York, who's this villain that was set up back in the beginning of the series, is the one that hired him, and they've been trying to kill him throughout the entire series. So Peter goes to the Fantastic Four, and they're going to go on a team-up to go fight the villains of Under York. Again, the humor in this book is something I really, really enjoy. Spider-Man. I mean, the Fantastic Four were gone for a while, so you probably weren't on the Avengers message chain. Invisible Woman. That tracks. 5 years exploring the multiverse. New existence. Who dis? Oh... That gave me a laugh. I couldn't help it. So, overall, this series has been just super fun so far. We're 12 issues in. And we get these little mini arcs, and then we get very like nice standalone stuff. So I really appreciate that about it. It makes it a lot easier of a book to read, especially for me. Though I did, of course, miss like a growing plot thread. So I feel a little silly for that. But hey, can't catch them all. I'm not Etch Ketchum. Alright, so pretty good though. I'm gonna go ahead and move right along. Superman number 15. Step aside, Superman. It's Superboy we need for the Legion of Superheroes. Super. I'm warming up to Bendis' aging of John Kent. I still don't love that choice. For those that don't know, John Kent was 10 years old, and then Bendis made him like 15, 16. Still don't love that choice. I thought it was a pretty typical move. At the end of the last issue, the Legion of Superheroes showed up right at the instant John Kent suggested that the different alien races form like a United Nations, but in space. So like a United Planets. Boom, Legion of Superheroes. We're here to celebrate the founding of the United Planets. I did quite get a kick out of that little time jump. And I mean, it is really cool. One thing that's been getting me through the choices I'm not a huge fan of in this series has been Ivan Reis's art, and it's really cool to see Ivan Reis draw the Legion of Superheroes like that. I just got everybody in here. And then there's like this whole discussion about they came before like there's even been like a legion of planets like created, or a united planets created. Like they just suggest the idea, and Brainiac realized, oh yeah, we should have come about 4 minutes later. And so that got me going. Again, I'm more just looking at the pretty pictures at this point. Some of the more conversational dialogue I'm getting a laugh out of. This issue seems to mostly just be a plot move-along issue as far as like the wider story is concerned. This is, I guess, the end of the Unity saga, and it really does feel like just your falling action kind of thing. Your epilogue to this arc. So like the big things that happen here is John Kent declares Unity Day. And he's asked by the Legion of Superheroes to join. He says he needs to think about it. Zod, or well, let's take these kind of in order. Rogozar has been placed in stasis, and we're not sure what his future is. Jor-El is probably the biggest plot development. So continuity's just a fucking madhouse, but Jor-El apparently survived the destruction of Krypton and has been causing chaos all over the universe since. Now the United Planets, newly formed United Planets, have decided to sentence him for his crimes, and the simplest way to do that was to time travel him back to the instant that he left, and so they send Jor-El to Krypton to die. And it seems pretty definitive that he doesn't make it back out of there. Who would know, though? The other big plot development here is Zod talks to the newly formed United Planets and says that he wants reparations for the Shadowy Council's part in the destruction of Krypton, and so he'll be forming a new Krypton and inviting Superman and Supergirl to come there and yada yada yada. Superman and Zod kind of leave on an understanding, if not the best of terms. Zod seems to not exactly apologize for his past transgressions, but certainly he's not presenting as incredibly proud of them. And Superman says, don't abuse it. Your trust, the name Krypton. Thank you. Let's both do better than our fathers. I kind of like that. It feels a little unearned. I really feel like Bendis should have started with the Zod arc or something like that. Shadow Batman says that's a pretty fitting death for Jor-El. I guess it's just I didn't read the Mr. Oz stuff, so I don't really know what Jor-El's crimes against the universe were. So I'll start with that as a bit of a head scratcher. But like, he unleashed Rogozar on the universe, I guess. That is the other big revelation here is Jor-El created Rogozar. And I'm like, okay, did I miss an issue somewhere? Like, there was a moment an issue or two ago where it's like, you're Kryptonian. But I didn't really get the impression that Jor-El created him. I very confused by that. I don't know. Maybe someone needs to explain it to me because it went whoosh right over this balding head of mine. And again, the Zod thing here is not bad. It just feels a little like, you guys worked together for a whole 10 seconds. I don't know. It's shaky. We get a tease at the end as the L family, as it were, goes back to Earth, and John is considering the Legion of Planets offer, but first he has to talk with Damian. So next issue, the return of the Super Sons. We shall see. I don't know. Well, I'll see how I like it. I'll see how I enjoy, or whether or not I enjoy the way Bendis writes John and Damian together. I feel like Bendis seems to be, I don't know if open to criticism is the right word, but he seems to be at least aware of criticisms that he's received. And I think the John Kent age up thing has been a pretty consistently panned thing from just about everybody. So I feel like him, having John and Damian re-interacting again post the age up, I am glad it's him writing it, so he gets to kind of deal with the baggage of that himself. I feel like it's got to kind of have a meta level to it where, Damian's got to be hurt by this. And John should probably end up feeling a little bit bad. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Still not in love with the choice. I don't think I'm ever going to warm up to that choice. I'd been hoping that it was going to get reversed. It looks pretty damn permanent at this point. Oh, what can you do? What can you do? Oh. Odd. Alright, let's go ahead and move on. Talk about Black Hammer, Age of Doom, number 12. This is it. This is the end of the story that was started in Black Hammer number 1. So there have been all these tie-in comics and things to Black Hammer. There's Sherlock Frankenstein, Professor Star, or something like that. And those have all been really interesting and kind of cool, stuff to flesh out the world. But ultimately, Black Hammer is a 24-issue series. Everything in Black Hammer and Black Hammer Age of Doom is the story. Everything else that came out around the series is pretty much just stuff to flesh out the world, build the universe up, but the story of Black Hammer itself is these 24 issues. And I gotta say, keeping that in mind, I think it is a really, really interesting conclusion to the series. Black Hammer has had such just this meta-narrative feel to it that it's just been there consistently throughout the run. I remember when I first started reading it, I was like, people should be checking out Black Hammer because it's a really, really good commentary on the industry in a similar way to Watchmen. Or not just the industry, the medium, the way stories are told in comics. And someone replied to me and was like, well, what is it? It just seems like another deconstruction that does all the, merging superheroes together to tell kind of an ultimate story. What makes it so special. And I think the thing that got me here is it's just got a lot of heart to it. It's got a really, really strong sense of heart to the characters that just didn't exist in stuff like Watchmen. Alan Moore wrote Watchmen, and at some point he said, oh yeah, if superheroes were real people, they'd just be assholes, and Watchmen was kind of the argument for that. And I get where he's coming from on that, I really do. Despite my feelings on Alan Moore, I can't always disagree with the man. I think that this is kind of the reaction to that. Where, yeah, maybe if superheroes were real people, they'd be assholes. But maybe they'd just be people with their own wants and desires, their own baggage, and maybe dealing with that level of stress would just make them really difficult to be around all the time. And so I don't know, I found this to be like a really heartwarming issue just from the very beginning, and then more and more as it went through. They're just kind of, there's no action in this. There's no big, fight. There's nothing. If the last issue of Watchmen was the one that kind of, it had all the shock, it had all the weight, but it was so grandiose, it was so over the top. Whereas this is so much more personal. It literally is just characters in a room talking throughout the majority of the issue. And then there's like this impending grand cosmic threat building, and it's in the background, and it's part of the decision, and it's part of what's motivating our characters to have these conversations, to deal with this. And ultimately it gets like 2 panels of attention. Everything here is on the weight of the characters. Everything here is about the people that you've been following. These really, really well fleshed out, incredibly deep, 3-dimensional characters. And they do the thing that's so basic to superheroes, to why we find superheroes inspiring and compelling. But it's such a hard thing as a reader to accept in certain ways, even though it's a happy ending, which is the crazy part. So the way the plot worked was the grand cosmic being of anti-God attacked the people of Spiral City, attacked the Earth. And the heroes of Spiral City banded together, Justice League, Avengers style, to try to take him out. And in an instant, they were gone. They teleported away, and anti-God was gone too. And everyone thought they died. Everyone thought that their heroes were lost forever. Died saving the world from anti-God. When in reality, they were teleported to a farm that wasn't a farm. They were taken away to a strange dimension and put under a spell by one of their own so that they would forever exist outside of time and space in perpetuity without escape. And because of that, the universe was put in balance. There was no great good, so there did not need to be a great evil, and anti-God could not exist. And here, at the end of the story, they've come back to reality. They've broken through the lie. They've finally understood everything. And anti-God has approached again. And so they decide this time, together as heroes, they all actively decide to go back, to wipe their memories of everything they experienced, and just exist on the farm, safe and content and happy, even though none of it's real. In order to save everyone. And that's just, the ending here is sweet in a lot of ways. Ave and Tammy are together, and so's Mark, and he's got a boyfriend who's able to actually be gay now, and Gail actually seems happy she's got Sherlock with her now too. And they all seem unaware of their past this time. They all seem to just exist kind of perfectly content, perfectly happy. Abe says, everything is just right. And then we zoom out from the farm and see it all exists in a dragonfly in the real world. And it's all over. And I gotta say, there's something really powerful there. There's something to that level of storytelling, of just that happy ending, but everything's going on. Everything is happening. Everything is being done for you, for us. And yet, there's that chance for the characters to just be content, to accept the lie, so they can be happy and they can save us. I don't know, there's a lot going on there that I found just really, really interesting, and I thought worked really, really well. I was very happy with how this story went. It is just a really nice, concise piece, and I thought that was really impressive. Let's go ahead and go on and talk about Batman number 79, The Menace of Magpie, City of Bane. So throughout King's run, anytime Batman and Catwoman have interacted, they've seemed to have this argument about, did they meet on the street or did they meet on the boat? And that was King playing with the in-continuity meetings, the in-continuity first appearances of Batman and Catwoman when they first interacted. And so, of course, you've got the Millerism of, oh yeah, they were on a street and there was bars and strippers and everything. It was just really funny to see that art repurposed. And so throughout this issue, they're kind of talking and wondering and thinking about what their purpose is, what they're going to do, how they're going to get back to Gotham, what they're going to do in Gotham, all that. And there's this conversation going on about what they mean to each other. This is very impressively just a deep look at Batman and Catwoman as a couple and what they do for each other. And so, to kind of tie this all back, my understanding, my thoughts on Batman and Catwoman as a couple have always been that they are an intensely intimate match on a pure chemistry kind of level. You put them in a room and they just can barely keep their hands off to each other. There's just an instant spark between them. But they've lived such different lives that they can never quite be together because they can never quite trust each other. There's always a sense of mistrust. Catwoman's always doing things that kind of push past Batman's boundaries, and Batman can't just let anything go. And that's always kind of there for them, and it's the sticking point in their relationship. And this issue really, really seems to kind of summarize all that and accept all that. And have them realize that there's a way to work through that. There's a way that they can manage and cope with each other. And I think that that's kind of the metaphor that King was doing this whole time with the boat, the street, the boat, the street, of where did they meet. And Bruce kind of has this line where he talks about that time on the street. It was before the bat. Even after, when I wore the costume, it was not fully formed. It was not yet Batman. But when we saw each other again later on the boat, I had embraced that identity. We were meeting as Bat and Cat. It was my truth meeting yours for the first time. But after what's happened, maybe I'm more than the Bat, more than the vow. Maybe I'm something. Maybe we can meet again. Here. Now. We met on the beach. Yes. We met on the beach. We agree? Holy shit, Bane is in trouble now. I think that this is kind of the point at which they're moving forward. They're looking past their differences. They're kind of accepting each other's faults and accepting that they've grown, that they've changed as people, and that maybe they can actually get all of this to work. Now, Tom King has a history of taking my heart and shattering it into 1,000 pieces, so we'll see where that goes. Maybe, finally, he has gotten me to accept Batman and Catwoman as the relationship. The ultimate, this is what they were always supposed to be. Maybe. Just in time to let me just break. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to talk about these as two separate books and all. I just want to talk about how weird it is as a Zorro fan to have two Zorro books out at the same time. That's not something I'm used to. Like, tall. Sorry. It's just weird. One of them's from last week. It's the only book I'm talking about from last week just because it's number one and it's Zorro and I don't get enough chances to talk about Zorro. But let's start with Zorro Sacrilege. So this is the continuing story of the what's the one? Temple, church, whatever, that was funded by Diego's father, Alejandro de la Vega, but now it is rife in demonage and sacrilege and violence and dark magic, and Zorro's kind of caught in the middle of it with this young, attractive Native American woman, and they're kind of just dealing with all the chaos and magic and stuff. This is mostly an action issue. There's not much plot that happens. They run into this room. Like, there's this very claustrophobic sense of what's going on in this issue. You know, they run into one room and there's soldiers there, and they run into the other room and there's zombies there, and they're just kind of stuck, and they can't seem to quite get anywhere safe, and things just keep going wrong and keep getting worse and worse and worse. So it is really our characters just under assault, being pushed to the edge, and that's really all that's going on in this issue. That being said, still pretty enjoyable read. I really liked this panel. I thought that was cool. Zorro trying to intimidate some soldiers and warn them about the upcoming danger. Do you mean this sword? If you value your lives, you'll listen to what I have to tell you. I don't know, it was cool. Zorro doing the Z in the air. That was fun. Overall, though, there's not much for me to talk about. I do think the art is really good. I think the poses and stuff are really dynamic and cool. Nice, fun action. I love the speed lines and stuff. That's just kind of my thing. This is a cool panel. Kicks a sword out of a guy's hand, grabs it in the air, lands with the two swords. Nice. Zorro fighting zombies is actually kind of cool, though. I can't lie. I do get a bit of a kick out of that. I'm impressed with the number of Z's that they managed to kind of sneak in here. That's pretty cool. So yeah, it's pretty much just a heavy action issue. There's not much for me to talk about beyond that. I did like it. I'm invested in how this is going to end. With these, you know, this is a 4-issue series. This is issue number 3. With these issues with these stories that are so short, I'm always like, how are they going to make it happen? How are they going to finish all this? Because issue 3 feels like we should have been to this point where, like, things are as bad as they're going to get. I just don't know how this is all going to conclude. Like, is Sunrise going to happen and Phantom Menace all the zombies away? What's going to go down here? Like, there's this running clue. You will end this. What sprang from your blood can only end by your hand. So that seems to kind of be the undercurrent, the problem that's going to be solved. Is Zorro's going to have to do something to end it all. But what that's going to be, who knows? Overall, I'm enjoying the series, though. I'm curious how he's going to wrap it up in one issue. We shall see. What's going on in the comments? I'm noticing activity. Manos is here. Hi, Manos! Shout out Batman. Ian. Now, I know Batman and Catwoman are right for each other. Thanks, Tom King. Tom King, sure. Looks to the side. Yep. That's legit what I'm worried about, man. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and move on. Talk about Zorro, Rise of the Old Gods, part 1 of 4. I mean, you think you'd finish your 4-parter before you start another 4-parter, but here we are. Let's see. The Sacrilege is written by Mike Wolfer, and that's following his Swords of Hell story. And it's a direct continuation. This is written by Jason Pell, so it seems to be a completely different story that's probably in a different continuity, question mark. It's vague enough that it doesn't have to be. Again, it's weird because the Sacrilege and Swords of Hell kind of does a thing with Zorro that is reasonably rare, which it starts with a Zorro who has revealed to the world that Don Diego de la Vega is Zorro, which is not a move you're typically gonna see, and so that's a weird choice. Here, however, Diego introduces himself to somebody, says his father's Alejandro, and yet no one knows who Zorro is. So this if it's in the same continuity, it's at that point where it's like, this was before Swords of Hell or something. Manos says, hey, is Zorro public domain? You know, literally this year, he is 100 years old. And so it might be one of those cases where the story is public domain, but the character's not. Because, like, I believe that's the case with... It's either Frankenstein or Dracula. Like, the original story, like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, I believe is in the public domain, but the character of Frankenstein is not. Or something like that. It's some weird shit. I fucking hate copyright of characters that are that goddamn old. Zorro's 100 years old. Why the fuck wouldn't he be in the public domain at this point? You cannot convince me that Macaulay and his family have not made a sizable profit off of the creation of Zorro. They don't need any more. Let me write my own official Zorro comic that's I can stand in the public. Fuck it, man. Fuck it. Anyway. So continuing on with Zorro's Sacrilege. Zorro Rise of the Old Gods. So I'm pretty sure this is in a separate continuity because no one seems to know that Diego is Zorro. Or definitely no one knows Diego's Zorro because he's like straight talking with a soldier at one point. And the soldier's like, oh, I'd arrest Zorro in an instant. But I mean, still, he's Zorro. And Diego, you shouldn't feel bad about being cowardly. Stuff like that. So this definitely is not that people know who Zorro is. So with the title Rise of the Old Gods, I'm sure someone out there's like, are we talking the Old Gods? I think we're talking. And the answer is yes. Zorro versus Cthulhu. I'm here for it, man. I am all about Zorro versus Cthulhu. That shit cool. I don't know, it's got this very, kind of admittedly Lovecraftian feel. It starts like this kind of ominous opening of a guy having a dream about a fox on the shore looking out into sea as the waves come crashing in. Then we cut to a party where there's like these odd artifacts and there's this creepy dude who's staring at this one artifact, and then there's a robbery of the artifact. Creepy dude seems to be like at least a member of, if not leading the gang that's stealing it. Zorro tries fighting off the robbers, but they seem to be kind of shockingly powerful. I thought this was a really cool moment, not gonna lie. Just, this guy doesn't seem to have any magical powers that I can tell yet or anything, but I just thought this was kind of cool. Like, you remember the 2004 Punisher movie and the fucking big ass dude in the striped shirt, and like Frank Castle versus that guy, he like stabs him and the dude just like looks at it and takes the knife and stabs him back. Yeah, like Zorro versus one of those kind of guys, like the big bruiser who's just a fucking massive muscle, is a really cool move. And so I really like this. He stabs him with the rapier, and then dude just takes it so he can get close and knock him out. I thought that was a pretty cool move, because Zorro is, of course, not the type to stab to kill right away. Like, Zorro's not Batman level where he won't kill, but he doesn't like doing it. So he's, of course, going to go for the non-lethal approach. He'll injure before he kills. And so you could really see some guy taking advantage of that. Because, like, yeah, getting stabbed through the shoulder would hurt a lot. Like, unimaginably so. But, like, it's not lethal by its very nature. Like, you're not... You don't have any major arteries there, I don't believe. It's just the blade in between the bone joint. It would be the thing that would really suck about it. So I don't know. I thought that was a pretty cool moment. The bandits get away. The military begins pursuing them. Diego volunteers to help. But the house that got robbed is checked up on the next day by the military, and I really like this creature design. Doing Lovecraft outside of prose is, I think, a really, really monumental task. Because the way Lovecraft wrote his characters, wrote his worlds, and wrote his horror is so much just about, it's more awful than you can imagine. Words do not exist to describe the horror we are witnessing. Like, that is just a very powerful thing. So it's all on this just, it gets you on this very primal level of, oh my god, I can't think about how bad it is, because no one can. No one can conceive of how bad this is. That's how bad it is. So trying to visualize that it's literally impossible. You can't like draw something that you can't imagine. You can't film something that you can't imagine, because you have to imagine it to put it on film. So I'm always, it's always shaky ground, I feel, to try to take like Lovecraftian lore and try to put it to the page, put it to the screen. That being said, I feel that the creature design here is very smart in that they're not gonna go for the tease and shadows thing. They're gonna just, go all in, show it off, really lean into just showing you monsters, showing you creepy thing, and trying to make it so otherworldly, so hard to imagine, to visualize, to place, so alien but not extra. I'm going to use the word alien, but I don't mean extraterrestrial. I mean alien is just unfamiliar. That I think this really works. I feel like if you're going to try to visualize Lovecraftian lore, that's the way to go about it. So the soldiers try to fight this monster and just get fucking wrecked, which is always fun. And then, we get this tease of what's to come with the rise of the old gods. I don't know how Zorro's going to beat Cthulhu. I think this is a cool, omen, though. Like, you've got the ocean coming in, the tide coming in. You've got the fox on the shore who, instead of running away from the horror, instead steps toward it. I thought that was a cool visualization, because that's the kind of thing Zorro would do, to a degree. I don't know, it's hard to talk about, especially in a series that's kind of like, okay, we're just taking Zorro and adding monsters. It's hard to talk about how Zorro fights, because he's an insurgent. Zorro's a terrorist, and therefore Merca. Zorro's an insurgent, and he fights against an overwhelming power. So it's hard to really conceive of what you do with that. And so it's kind of cool to take this overwhelming power of the Lovecraftian old god mythos and put Zorro up against it. Because, he's not going to run away. He will step in and fight it, but he's also not going to be dumb enough to fight it directly. At least in my estimation, he shouldn't be. So I'll be curious to see how this is written and how this works going forward. Because Zorro is the fox. He's tricky. So I'm hoping that the writer leans into that and doesn't just... I really don't want to see Zorro cutting off Cthulhu's tentacle face or anything like that. I really want something... more... I want Zorro to triumph here. I want him to win, which is just not guaranteed with a Lovecraftian story. But I don't want him to win in, a big, grandiose way. I want that, that clever bitch kind of ending. Anyway, the monsters are coming. Everything's going wrong. The bandits are being attacked on the outskirts of a village by fish monstery things. And that's where we leave the first issue. I'm hyped for it, man. I'm incredibly interested to see where this goes. I think I'm enjoying this one more than I did Sacrilege or Swords of Hell, just based off the first issue. I like Lovecraftian lore a little bit more than I do just like general magic, demonage kind of stuff, demonology. So probably why I'm into that a little bit more. This came out last week. Again, I'm reviewing it this week because I missed last week, and it is number 1, so I did want to talk about it in case anyone's interested in going and picking it up. I definitely would recommend it. It's not like what I would recommend if you've never read a Zorro story before, go pick this up. That wouldn't be it, because this is kind of doing new stuff with Zorro. But if you like the character or have a passing familiarity with the character and are interested to see him kind of just out of his element a little bit, I think this might be a good place to start. So keep that in mind. Manos, Frankenstein the character isn't public domain. Everybody seemed to be able to make Frankenstein story. I know you can't do a Frankenstein that's directly someone's take on him. I'll have to check. Yeah, I again, my information might be out of date or something, but I remember like looking into this at one point, and it's either Frankenstein or Dracula. I can't remember which one specifically. I'm leaning toward Frankenstein because there aren't as many like clearly public versions of Frankenstein. But like something happened with the rights. I'm gonna lean in and commit to Frankenstein, but please someone tell me if I'm wrong. Something happened with the rights where like if you want to do an adaptation of the original Mary Shelley Frankenstein story, then you're legally allowed to do that. Or you're legally allowed to do stuff that takes place after that. So like, oh god, this is a fucking garbage pull, but I, Frankenstein begins with like Frankenstein killing the doctor and then going off and doing a really shitty movie with angels and demons in it. But like, it's a follow-up. Okay. Manos is saying that Universal's version of Frankenstein belongs to them. You can do a Frankenstein as long as it doesn't look like theirs. That's fucky, though, right? Like, that's so... Oh, yeah, you've created the most iconic look for the character. Thanks. Okay, I guess that makes more sense than what I was going with. Because, like, what I was kind of thinking is you can't create, like, a completely... new story. You can't just like use Frankenstein randomly. He's gotta like either be based directly in the old story. You can't create like Frankenstein but in 2015 or something. It kind of has to be based directly off Mary Shelley, and I don't know, that might be true. But yeah, that's fucking weird. Zorro just absolutely should be in the public domain. I know there's like a musical based on the Johnston McCulley story, the original Zorro story, and it's like it had this huge legal battle. Is Zorro public domain? Let's look this up, because since any work published in the United States prior to 1923 is in the public domain, this means the story of Zorro himself had passed into the public domain. The creator of Zorro, Johnston McCulley, died in 1958. Alright. So, technically the character is in public domain from that? Will Mark of Zorro defeat court's public domain ruling? With hallmark examples of thrust and parry that create a great sword fight on the movie screen, the nearly 20-year dispute over a musical about... The fucking 20 years on the musical of Zorro? What? A musical dispute about the fictional character Zorro just got a little clearer on May 11, 2018. Federal District Court, California issued a ruling that held 1. The character Zorro was in the public domain, so Zorro is in the public domain. Nothing in the plaintiff's rival musical infringe on the Zorro rights holders' copyrights. A newly commissioned Zorro novel did not infringe on the plaintiff's musical, but a newly commissioned Zorro musical might have infringed on the plaintiff's copyrights. This is so fucking confusing. So apparently, I guess we got the answer we're looking for. Zorro's in the public domain. So I'm gonna get a fucking Kickstarter going for a Zorro something. Comic, film, I don't fucking know. I got a Zorro story that's all based on a goddamn speech. I've got a fucking speech in mind for Zorro. You don't even know. It's gonna be like the moment. And then I'm just gonna have to figure out how to write the whole rest of the story around that one fucking speech, though. It's gonna be a good speech. Just saying. It is. Alright. That's going to do it for me for comic reviews. I'm glad to know that Zorro's in public domain. That actually makes me quite pleased. Maybe I should start working on some Zorro fan fiction that I could just turn into a novel that could actually get published to make me some money. Maybe that's what I ought to do with my life. Alright, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time. Bye!